Hey everybody, Rob with TerraXplore. Today we're going to be making a video about streaking for you to answer some of your questions and concerns that we've gotten throughout the year. Today we have a special guest. His name is Andy. Andy, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Andy Wailes, owner and operator of Precision Aerial Applications located right here in Ankeny, and started this business about 3 years ago, early 2023. So we've got 3 solid seasons of Iowa spraying under our belt now. We've covered about 35,000 acres in that time. Primarily fungicide, but we also do a lot of pasture work, cover crop, things like that.
Can you tell me a little bit about some of the platforms that you use?
Currently, we are running 2 T50s in 2023, 2024. Actually, in 23, I ran 1 T40. Last year, had 2 T40s, so added a second one to the fleet, and then upgraded to 50s this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we know streaking to be generally something caused by weather, by hardware, or by operator issues. But in your real-world experience, what does streaking mean to you?
I would basically describe streaking exactly as it sounds. You're leaving streaks or lines in the field that you just applied a product on, maybe like a zebra pattern, something like that. We've seen, especially in 2025, seeing a lot of images come through or videos around different parts of the country where application was inconsistent or uneven for whatever reason. So streaking is just that. It's just either the settings on your equipment were wrong, either you assumed too wide of a swath width and you didn't get proper coverage, you didn't get proper overlap on your passes. Maybe the wind conditions were different than what you were expecting. So there's a lot of different factors to look at whenever you do a job. You don't just show up, set up the drone, mix up your chemical and go, right? It's important to look at what are the environmental conditions. So whenever we do a job, whenever we have a mission, we're constantly checking the weather apps to see, okay, what are the wind conditions? Are they really matching in the field what we're expecting? Okay, if they are, great. What's our swath width going to be? And if not, okay, what do we need to do? I think one of the biggest problems that I have seen over the last 3 years is, and I'd say I'm probably guilty of this too, especially in my earlier days, is, okay, we were told a T40 or a T50 is a 32-foot swath width, or maybe it's a 30-foot swath width. Well, that's great, but where's that information coming from? I think as applicators, a lot of applicators were just running on data from the manufacturer or from who they bought the drone from, which who knows where that information came from. Could have been accurate, maybe it wasn't. So, okay, that's what we set it at. Every field's gonna be exactly the same regardless of the conditions, and that's just not responsible application of a product, right? So there's a lot of things to look at with the weather. Okay, if the wind is higher, maybe we need to narrow that swath width down. Maybe we need to change the microns or some of the different settings on the drone to compensate for these environmental factors. So a lot of it boils down to, in order to have a good even coverage, is looking at the scenario, right? You need to critically think about what's going on here and how do I maybe need to adapt the drone to make sure that we're getting even coverage.
Yeah, we definitely know that weather is a huge factor in terms of streaking.
Yep.
And you talked a little bit there about your operational planning, your application settings, and especially on where you're getting information. Would you say it's an important factor to collaborate with other operators in your area or with other users of specific product? Because one thing for sure is manufacturer guidelines are usually based on either dispersion of water or some other non-environmental hazard, which is going to have a very different application swath, application rate, droplet size, thing like that, compared to any product that you want to apply. What kind of things have you found have been most helpful for you in experimenting or finding better application?
Sure, I think what you said is right on, is collaborating with other operators in the area. Obviously in central Iowa, around the state of Iowa and the Midwest, there's a heavy presence of planes, certainly some helicopters, but there hasn't been a lot of drone applicators in the area. And obviously in the last 24, 36 months, that's rapidly changing. So earlier on, really my reliance was on who I bought my drones from. That was the primary source. Obviously, do your homework, right? Educate yourself, read the product labels, make sure you're studied up on the IDALS curriculum. So, I mean, if you're properly certified and you have all your certifications, your licenses in place, you should know these things, right? So that's kind of step one before anything else, is make sure you have that in order. But then, yeah, looking to others in the industry, what are they seeing? Okay, is the manufacturers is saying X, Y, and Z. Okay, does that translate to Iowa conditions? Maybe, maybe not. And as time has gone on, as I've gotten to know others in the industry, we've done a lot more networking with other operators as well, which has been a huge help. I was actually having a conversation this morning with a guy about a job that I'm going to be doing tomorrow. And I've done this work before, but even so, I wanted to get his thoughts on, hey, maybe do I need to change a setting? Maybe I should do this differently, things like that. So certainly it's consulting with the network of operators. And then we're seeing a lot more too on the more research-oriented side as far as working with the local universities. You know, I'm doing some work with Iowa State. We just did some swath testing with the T50 here a couple of weeks ago. I know some other companies were doing some swath testing back in September with Iowa State. Different drones, different models. And it's important to know it's not one size fits all. Like we were saying earlier, I mean, a T40 versus a T100, different swath width, different speed, different height, everything's going to be different. So knowing and understanding the limitations of your machine. And yeah, maybe, 2 years ago when we were here in a 30 to 32 foot swath width, okay, unfortunately, that was probably a little bit unrealistic. So we need to manage those expectations. I love getting a lot of acres done, right? I want to cover as much ground as I can in a day, but not at the expense of a quality application. So certainly relying on that community and looking to local research, whether that's universities or independent studies, whatever that might be, to get an idea of, okay, what are the realistic settings for these machines and what's going to give us the best coverage? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here to provide, is a quality application for all of our customers. I certainly don't want these phone calls of, hey, you streaked my field, this looks terrible, blah, 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 blah. Nobody wants that phone call. So let's make sure that we're doing a quality job and knowing how to adjust for these real world conditions.
Just like we as a distributor for a manufacturer, we want to make sure we deliver a consistent quality product. Our applicators and our users are trying to get the same result from use of that product. So one thing I think that probably be beneficial that we'll try and do is help you guys build a network. So anyone who's in our distributor and our dealer network or our customer network, maybe we can try and find a way to help you guys stay in line, communicate, have some way that you can submit resources of, I'm using this product on this application and this has been what's worked really well for me. That kind of feedback will really help not only our applicators and our product users, but also help improve the line itself, because Talos has really good R&D and feedback-based redevelopment of products, and they do a good job of pushing out hardware updates and things as you need. So please always make sure you reach out, and all of you reach out to us with any concerns you have. Part of what I do as the support engineer team and the head of the support engineer team is it's my job to listen to your concerns and complaints and to try and find solutions. That's why we have Andy here today. So please make sure you reach out, leave comments on our videos, reach out on our website, leave us emails. And any of those concerns you have, we'll do our best to help improve and fix those issues, as well as to get you the resources you need, because I don't think anybody has all the answers.
No, certainly not. I mean, to that point, we're seeing things change. Obviously, with all these new drones, not just DJI, but these other brands that are coming onto the market. I mean, I have questions as an operator. I love DJI. It's a phenomenal product line, and I want to continue that relationship with them over the long term. But it's also important to know, okay, what other options are out there? And I'm hearing the same talk again with these new drones is, oh, drone X, Y, and Z can do this much, this wide of a swath width. And I'm skeptical instantly because of what we've seen here, especially this year, 2025, a lot of streaking issues, a lot of inconsistent coverage. So to ditto what you said, if I can be of any assistance, I want to be a positive voice in the drone industry as an applicator as well. I think that that's more important than ever, is that we have a united front and we're helping uplift each other, and at the end of the day, again, provide the best quality of service, the best product, the best coverage that we can for our customers. And I don't think that any of us wants to do that alone, right? I mean, I think we have a network for a reason. Let's utilize that.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really unfortunate in a lot of the drone world, whether it's on the hobby side or on the professional side, either in imaging or in ag drones or other drone areas, is that we end up having a lot of like maverick operators, people who really want to just go it alone and be the guy. And I think just like in general agriculture or any other industry, we really have to rely on each other, especially as we're building this industry, because it's new. It's really only been about a decade now that we've had a framework of rules through the government to do operations, and we're still in Part 108 process for beyond line of sight. We don't even have anything other than our exemption process for large UAS. So the more we work together, the better it's going to be for all of us, I think. Coming together like that is really going to help a lot with those operator-based errors or those settings-based errors. We can't really control the weather, but we can control what we're doing, how we're operating, how we're flying, and how we're applying our product. Now, What advice would you give to others based on your 3 years of applying for maintenance schedules, for maintaining your spray equipment, for how product interacts with, say, your tank or your lines, or if you're using a nozzle or an atomization system?
Yep.
How do those hardware factors affect your experience?
It's a good question. I've learned a lot over the last couple of years. I mean, I honestly did not know all the ins and outs of the drones when I first started. So it's important to get an understanding of, okay, what are the elements of the drone, especially with the T40s and 50s? Okay, what are maybe some, dare I say, weak points to watch for, right? For example, this year, swapping over to T50s, but I was using T40 batteries. So the power distribution board, which is where your battery connects, we had some overheating issues. So I actually had to swap those out a couple of times, which I really wasn't expecting. So watching your equipment for general wear and tear, right? Like on your motors, make sure you feel that nice click, right? Watch your blades, check for cracks, check for chips. Check for the general wear and tear. If you're doing a lot of cover crop like in the fall, you're gonna chip your blades, right? Well, don't just continue to use those for thousands of acres. So watch your motors, watch your ESCs, watch your blades, the power distribution board. Watch these elements and do a pre-flight check. You know, continue to watch over your equipment. Check your spray nozzles. As far as for us, keeping things clean, not necessarily throughout the day, but at the end of the day, clean off your equipment, right?
Yeah,
take good care of it.
cleanliness.
Exactly. Regular maintenance is going to save you in the long run by just taking care of things. You let these things sit for a few days with chemical, good luck getting them clean.
Yeah.
You know, and especially on the herbicide side of things, when it's in the middle of fungicide, and we're doing fungicide every day, we're cleaning it up, but it's not like we're flushing and cleaning the tanks. But when it's spring and fall and we're doing a lot of herbicide, I don't necessarily always know, okay, I'm working today. What am I doing in 2 or 3 days, much less tomorrow? Okay, make sure that you're cleaning this out. I put tank cleaner through my drones after every job because I want to make sure that I'm keeping things clean. I certainly don't want to contaminate the next job. So those are just some things off the top of my head that come to mind for maintaining your equipment, but watch for things. In flight, you'll get used to seeing how the drones move, right? And over time, you get a familiarity with it. And I've had times where there's a couple of times where as I'm coming into land, I'm noticing that the drone's just shaking. It's just abnormal vibration, not to the point where the controller was telling me anything, but I would land it and sure enough, I'm missing the last 2 inches of a blade. You know, so be aware. I am not the type of operator that hits go, slides to start on the mission on the controller and just let it go. Watch what your machine is doing, right? Be an active pilot. I don't want to see guys just set it, let it go. Oh, it comes back when it comes back. No, watch for your equipment. Make sure you're keeping an eye on things, and that's going to help you just to prevent some future issues. Obviously, you can't plan for everything. We've had motor stalls. You do the best you can to land them, right? Earlier this season, we had a motor mount bracket that cracked, and so the drone just hovering was starting to spin slowly, right? Well, thankfully, we were able to land it and figure out what the issue was and go get it repaired. But if we're not paying attention, you're going to miss those things.
And not only is it detrimental to your business or the quality of your work, but it's a huge safety problem.
Absolutely.
And as a lifelong hobbyist, I have seen so many horror stories. I'm covered in scars from my own ignorance that led to me getting hurt. And so every warning I give is usually based on a lesson learned the hard way. And in your 3 years of experience, like you just said, you've got several hard lessons that you've learned that have led you to realize, those manufacturer recommendations aren't there for just warranty purposes. They're there to ensure that your business runs as smoothly as possible, that you're safe, that your customers are safe, and that this product is going to continue to work for you for a long time. It makes me really happy to hear that you are taking care of your equipment, especially as the guy that fixes it, because I see lots of interesting things. I definitely say, for best practices, make sure that anytime you're going to change material, so whether you're going to change from fungicide to a fertilizer, or you're going to change to different viscosity, you're going to change droplet size, whatever, it's always worth it. Just run a couple gallons of water through, especially on these newer units with quick fill tanks where you've got quick fill nozzles. You can just stick a hose in there, run clean water through the system, purge it, make sure that you don't have any distillates or anything building up in your lines. And if you do, just take the extra time, clean it out. 10 minutes of maintenance is going to save you weeks or maybe months of sending something in for a catastrophic failure. And when you put it in that perspective, it's always worth it.
Right.
That's coming from me, the guy that has to fix the stuff. Please take care of your tools, you know?
Yeah. One of the things I've gotten used to looking at is the lines, right? That are flowing to the spray nozzles. What color is it? You know, if I'm spraying fungicide, yeah, it's white, right? Maybe there's a foliar in there. Maybe it's brown. Or I've had some blue stuff, right? But okay, if my drone should be clean, or if at the end of the night I'm cleaning up, flush your drone. You know, it doesn't take that long, like you said. Put a couple gallons of water in, make sure your lines are clean, flush everything out. It saves you so much hassle. So the other thing with chemicals, if you haven't mixed it before, do a jar test. Slow down to speed up. I still do that with chemicals that I'm maybe new to. Thankfully, really haven't had too many issues. But one has bit me before, you know, during fungicide season. There was a product that we were unfamiliar with, did not think we would have any issue, and we did. So had we run a jar test, we would have caught that earlier and saved ourselves a lot of hassle.
How often have you found that you need to recalibrate on your T40, T50s?
I tend to monitor things. I mean, again, if you're watching how the equipment is operating, I'll recalibrate as needed. Whenever I change tanks back and forth, liquid to dry, we'll recalibrate, make sure the weight sensors are where they need to be. Had more issues on the T40 side with that than the T50. Didn't really have too many calibration issues, but I would say monitor it, and it doesn't take that long. Just recalibrate as needed.
Yeah, it's one of those things, it's so easy and simple, and if you just keep up with it, it's always going to make life so much easier and so much simpler, and your application will be so much better as long as you're doing these regular software, regular hardware checks. And there's a reason that all of your certifications have you go through consistent pre-flight planning, operational planning, and just being familiar with your SDSs, your MDSs for whatever products. All of these things are there to help you succeed. Just as Andy has learned here from years of experience, the recommendations there are there to help you. They're not there to be a burden. They're not there to just be some hurdle you gotta jump over because the government's on you. That stuff is there to make life easier because people way smarter and more experienced than Andy or I has learned it probably the hard way.
100%. And backing up a little bit to what we were talking about earlier, as far as the settings, you know, doing that pre-flight check, because of how, especially on the T50, when you clean it, it'll toggle, and the way I flush the lines, I turn off atomization. Well, it resets some of the settings. You need to know those things. So going through, before you start any mission, verifying, okay, what are my parameters, right? Is atomization turned on? I swear, some of these images I've seen of some of the drone coverage this year, not locally, I don't even know where this was at, but I wonder if their atomization was even on.
Well, we've had a similar issue. We were doing a demonstration with one of our T60s as a flight test, and it was after we'd filmed some content with the solid spreader system, and I forgot to go in and check it, and we were just dumping like 2 gallons of water every 30 seconds out of the nozzles, and I was like, oh, dude. And then we got good coverage again.
And so check that. Make sure your atomization, it seems kind of basic and simple, but talk about things that a lot of guys maybe aren't aware of, right?
Not aware of, or just even inexperienced. You get complacent. You know, you think, well, it worked yesterday, so I don't need to check.
I'd like to think, I mean, certainly we're striving to be this way, is that with more experience, we're actually doing a lot more of these checks more frequently, just because of lessons learned. So is my atomization on? What are my microns set to? You know, you change that up depending on what you're doing, what your conditions are. So what are your microns? What's your swath width? What's your height? Do you have altitude stabilization on, right? Are you terrain following or aren't you? These are all things to be aware of. So knowing those settings, and obviously familiarity is going to come with time. The more you fly these things, I mean, I'm much more skilled at toggling between menus and things like that in mid-flight than I was early on, and that comes with experience. But know your equipment, know how to change something. If you see something that's off, number one, stop the drone, land it if you need to. Some of these things can be corrected mid-flight, but know how to do all those things. Know your software just as much as you know your hardware.
Yeah, just like in manned aviation, it's just as important to be familiar with the functions of your system, the ins and outs of your controller, of your software, to be familiar with your hardware. When you open these things up and it says, read the manual, it's because there are so many features. I mean, even as a guy that's played with drones for 20 years, every single controller, every single drone has unique settings, cool features, things that you can change, buttons that you're like, what does that do? And you might not realize that you've changed something. you know, and taking the time to become familiar, especially as you change platforms or as your seasons change and you're going from one application type to another, things might not be the same. So taking that extra time to practice, to play with it, to, you know, be interested and engaged and treat it not only as, you know, just your job, but also something to be, you know, interested and proud of. It's always a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and to that point, between the T40 and T50, we switched mid-fungicide season to the 50s, and there was a little bit of a learning curve. It wasn't as severe, but the way that I pilot and my other pilots, we use some of those hotkeys on the controller. Well, we had to reprogram those, but you also need to make sure that you're aware of, okay, if I hit this button, what is that doing? You know, if you're toggling off your obstacle avoidance, you need to know that because you can have some really severe consequences if it's off and you think it's on. So, yeah, familiarity for sure.
Yeah. Well, Andy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
If we have any more questions or things, I think we're going to reach out to you.
Yeah.
Maybe have you collaborate with us a little bit. Going forward, maybe in another segment, we'll invite you on again. Thank you so much for coming in, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.